Hello.
Hello.
I'm gonna touch knees.
Touch knees.
All
All right. Welcome back for another chaotic episode where we pretend like we know what we're talking about.
Yeah, welcome to the Shared Shelf.
I'm Dae,
I am Ren.
and today we are going over some self-editing tips.
Yeah, I've edited a few books, so I think I know what I'm talking about. I also learned a lot from my editor.
And I'm in the process of editing my debut novel, and it is hell. So
It is. It can be.
I'm learning. So I have a few tips that I think will be helpful, but I think you're gonna have more to say.
Probably. I feel like when I published my debut novel, I did it so quickly. I wrote the first draft through to publishing it in 9 months. I learned a lot from what I did wrong. Not necessarily with editing, I would say. Like, my editor was very heavy-handed and held my hand a lot, which I loved her for. She made it very easy for me. But there's still things that you learn. So I have my list on my phone today.
I have it in my brain, so
That's fair. I was thinking on how to go through this is maybe just explaining like my editing process first and then going through more like specific tips of things that you can look out for.
Okay.
So I know everybody's process is a little bit different with stuff, but I feel like for editing, there's like a really good starting point. And to me, that is first writing your book and then putting it away.
Yes, I had that on.
How long did you do that?
So with my debut novel, it's been like 2 years.
Okay.
Because I kept writing, and since taking a step back, I am now more critical about it because I'm farther along in the story.
Mm-hmm.
So like there are things that I need to like sprinkle in the first novel that matter for book 4.
Mm-hmm.
So I find that taking a step back from it can allow you to be more critical about your own work, and obviously you're going to be your biggest critic anyway. Because like even right now, I'm just deleting paragraphs, and 2 years ago I'd be like, no, it's my baby, but now I'm like, goodbye.
I kind of did that. Well, I'm trying to do that now, I think is better, because I'm writing the first draft of the first book in my new like interconnected standalones, and I want to write the first draft for all 3 books and then kind of start editing. But it's not going to be 2 years. For my last books, my like put it away phase was maybe like a month, and it wasn't like me sitting around like wasting time, if that makes sense, because it wasn't such a big time crunch, but it was me sending it out to people. Like, I wasn't looking at it when beta readers had it. I wasn't looking at it when my editor had it, right? So that was kind of my resting period, because I'm planning not to release anything like too quickly right now. When I'm done the first draft of this book, I'm going to go through, do like a quick round of like self edits just to make it eligible, because, or readable.
Eligible still works.
Eligible still works, yeah. Just because my first drafts are a disaster, so I need to go in and flesh it out so that it makes sense for my alpha readers. But then when I send that out, my break is going to be writing the second book. So stepping away from the first book, writing the second book's first draft.
Okay.
Once the second book's first draft is done, I'll send that out to alpha readers, and then I'll take back the alpha reader, and then I'll start my self-edit process and rewrites.
Okay.
So I'm not really taking a break, but I'm looking away from that draft, I guess.
Yeah, and I think just building off of you mentioning giving it to other people, peer reviews are so important, and having somebody else look at your work, even though that can be daunting, because I'm in that process where my mother was my first reader, but everything that she pointed out in like a developmental way in my debut made sense, and I think that it will help flesh out the world and the story. So peer reviews.
Also, on peer reviews, don't trust everything everybody says. People are insanely opinionated. So I'm going to use her book as an example. She is like in the first 5-10 chapters. I don't actually know where you are right now, but
chapter 6, I think.
Okay, so she came back and she's like reading the comments from her mom, and she's like, my mom says I need to write this whole chapter. And then we ended up talking about it, because at first she was like, yeah, I'm going to do that. I think she's right. And then once we chatted about it, we realized, okay, you don't need a full chapter. She's right that you need to include that, but a section in a chapter was enough for it.
Yeah, I think what I've been taking from my mom's work is more of she'll make suggestions. Like there are two characters, Jackson and Jules, and she was like, I would like to know about their friendship more. So what I've done is I've just intermingled through chapters 1 to 6 just a few things instead of just giving them their own section. But I don't think that there needs to be a tour scene in my book. I'm going to include a map. So if you get lost, that's your own fault. But I am trying to distinguish where they are in the academy because my mom said that she was a little confused on where things were. So I'm just.
But that's also a first draft problem because you don't know where things are.
Yeah, no, I didn't draw the map until like last week.
Yeah.
I had it in my head where everything was, but that putting it on paper. Draw a map. Self-editing tip.
Or use Incarnate to make a map.
And make a map.
They do have a free version. I pay literally $10 a year for commercial rights. Like it's so cheap and it's hard when you start with it, but once you get used to it, Incarnate's really nice.
Yeah. So maps will help with your placement of your characters and where they are, because like mine takes place in one pocket dimension and then a school.
See, I've never made a map for like a location, like for like a castle or a town, or like I've never drawn a map for that. I've always just written out like some landmarks. But I'm more of like a big map girl because I'm fan. Like, yeah, excuse me, sorry, because I'm like fantasy. Like my current book that I just started, I wouldn't even start writing it until I had the map because there's 6 countries and I had to figure out the politics and all of that. But that's getting into planning, not editing. So
not
editing, can be another video. My first step after putting it away when I take it back, she prints off her books. I don't. I don't really care for paper. It takes more work for me to put it back into the computer. So yeah, I don't do that. But I have tried it. I've tried it in the past. But I don't do it now.
This kills trees. I don't recommend it.
I use Scrivener. I've talked about Scrivener in another video, but it has a revision mode where you can like add sticky notes or like references to areas if you want to come back and change it later. And then when you're rewriting, it like changes the font color. And I really like that because it's like a visual show of how much that I've changed and rewritten, which makes me believe that my writing's not shitty. But what I do first is I read the book out loud. I go top to bottom and read it out loud and double, but I guess not in my first draft because I rewrite my first draft so heavily, but after my beta readers, when I'm doing like my third draft or so, that would be my first step is reading it out loud and figuring stuff out that way. I know you're reading your book to your husband right now, which is sick.
Yeah, I also had reading it out loud or having like a text to speech program do it for you because
Speechify is good.
Like you will catch a lot of grammar issues yourself when you are reading it out loud. Like if you stumble on a sentence, it's most likely because the sentence is structured terribly. And I am reading it to my husband, and I find that even I have gone through this first draft myself probably 4 times before I gave it to my mom, and I still have tense issues. I still have spelling errors, like things that I didn't catch or Google Docs didn't catch. So reading aloud,
yeah,
good tip.
Like when you're publishing, there will always be like human errors slipping through. So my editor did a proofreading round, and then before I like hit publish on KDP, I thought the book was done, but I was like, screw it. I have a physical arc in my hand. I'm going to like listen to it. So I put each chapter in the Speechify, which this was like a year and a half ago, so I'm gonna have to check now if Speechify uses like AI and stuff because you never know. But I pop it in and then let it play, and then I read it at the same time. So my eyes are scanning it while I'm hearing it, and then that helped a lot. And that's how I did my final round of proofreads. And even then, still stuff slipped for the cracks. Like
it still happens.
Is horrible.
Yeah,
but
just to build off of you saying that I print things, I only printed it because my mom doesn't read digital anything, but she reprinted it single-sided, and like it has been very helpful because she put like notes. So this is my mom's notes here, and then my shitty penmanship on the side. But like for example, she'll leave notes of like, why is this hidden? Why is there conspiracy? And I'm like, you know what? As a reader, I would also be.
But you can do that on Google Docs.
Yeah, I know. But my mom doesn't use a computer. My mom is a dinosaur. And I mean that in the most friendly way possible. Mom, if you ever watch this, I'm so sorry. But she doesn't use technology, and she reads only physical books. Like she doesn't read any digital Kindle, nothing. Like she's never done that. So that's why I printed it. I don't think I would do it again because it costs like $100 to get it printed at Staples. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't even think of that.
So it is expensive to print if you don't want to waste your own paper.
It honestly would have been cheaper for you to just upload that into KDP for
and then
personal
order
copy
it. Yep.
and then order a personal art.
Yep. Which I probably will do
But it
for
won't
draft
give you enough.
2.
It won't give you enough room to write in the margins as much unless you double space it. Anyways.
But anyways.
So my next tip, this is I think more of a personal thing than how I do it. I don't think everybody should follow this, but this is what works for me. When I'm going through and like doing that initial read through, whether it's like through a Speechify app or something, or if I'm just reading it, I don't make edits as I'm reading. Because I will get stuck in that too much and then won't make as much progress. So I read through it and I make a list. I'm a big list girl. I love lists, both personal life and at work. When I'm bored at work, I just make lists. It's great. So I make my list and I don't like I just go through it chronologically, and if I know that there's something big like plot wise or character wise or something I need to double check, I will either highlight it or add it to my list, and then when I go through the end, I organize my list from lowest effort to most effort. And then I don't do it like chronologically. I don't do all the little stuff first or whatever. I actually tend to do the bigger stuff first, but it just makes it a lot easier and digestible to me. And then seeing that list, and the reason I prioritize it is because like if you make an edit in chapter 2 and then you read and you're on chapter 20, there might be a contradiction that contradicts that edit that you just did in chapter 2. I've run into that problem where or I'm double explaining things. So I'm like, oh, this isn't in my book yet. And then so that helps me from overdoing work or getting a little bit trapped in the early chapters. Because I could probably like re-edit the same 5 chapters endlessly. Like you said, you edited your book like 4 times before you sent it to your mom. Like you can get trapped in that.
Yes, and I think you can get really sucked into that. I'm a little different. I will actually do small edits as they come up. So like if I have a spelling mistake, whatever, like I won't necessarily fix it right away, but I'll like highlight it to make sure that I know to go back to it. Right now, I'm in the process of doing more developmental edits to make sure that the plot and the antagonist makes sense. Like I need to tease a little bit more, and my mom wants to see more magic, and I agree with her. I think there needs to be more magic. I was just shying away from it because it's just so overdone and so cliche, but my main male character, you know, doesn't know anything about magic really, and he's terrified of his magic, and she says that there's just a huge gap where he goes from being afraid of his magic to liking his magic, and I was like, damn it, you're right. In terms of like other things, like I'll just cross stuff out. Like if I don't like a sentence, I'll just cross it out. I have my favorite comment is just ew, and that's when I get the ick, and I just put a huge X through it and put ew, and that's myself telling me to rewrite it. But I'm doing it from paper and then doing it on Google Docs, so I go chapter by chapter. So
that's the important thing. I think you just mentioned that you're doing developmental edits right now. Is maybe just mentioning like or explaining the differences between the different types of edits and just understanding like if this is your first time editing your work, you're not going to do everything at once. Like you don't edit the developmental stuff at the same time that you do your line editing, because if you do, like you said you highlight a sent like your spelling or whatever. I don't do that because I'm such a heavy rewriter. 90% of my first draft is scrapped. Like I rewrite in every single paragraph. Like I don't. I'm a very heavy rewriter.
Like I'll rephrase things or make it better or like rewrite a whole paragraph or when I do scrap, because I do scrap, just because it doesn't make sense. But my line edits, yeah, I will probably, after I finish developmental edits, and that's when I'll go back through again and probably use something like Grammarly or something to catch my grammar, and then I'll probably send it to my editor. So right now I'm not worried about tense, I'm not worried about grammar, I'm just worried about getting what I need for the plot out, because I'm putting scenes here and there, and like I'm having to decide where I have to put these scenes or adding like one sentence. Like there's one sentence I have to add in a chapter that's coming up because like if people are staying to watch this match and it's at night, the only people who will stay is people who can see in the dark.
Mm.
Things like that.
There's no
I have
lights.
dark vision.
There's no lights.
There's no lights.
Oh, okay.
It's completely in the dark because it aids them. I don't know. They can use it to their advantage.
Okay. On the note of like you just mentioned Grammarly is every writing app or editing app has their own bias, which is really annoying. I personally use both Grammarly and Pro Writing Aid. I love Pro Writing Aid. There's a lot of AI features on it that you have to ignore, unfortunately. Like they have like a critique, like you can use it to critique your chapter. Terrifying to me. But the actual like editing software is phenomenal. But if you there's a cat in a basket right now.
She's so cute. Right, continue.
You'll find you'll like edit a chapter in Grammarly and then I'll copy and paste it into Pro Writing Aid and there will be like lines that Grammarly has changed that Pro Writing Aid is telling me I can write better.
Okay.
Like and it's all style. It's a stylistic thing. So you have to learn to ignore editing apps. And
yes,
they will if you use an editing app to rewrite. I'm going to use Pro Writing Aid as an example here because I do have an AI feature that you can rewrite lines using their generative AI feature. If you did that for every single line in your book, you would lose all of the style and voice that makes your book yours.
Yes.
So against like that's even outside of the whole FAI thing for ethical reasons.
For ethical reasons.
But for stylistic reasons, don't do that.
Don't do that. I second that. So there are moments where I know that using a comma isn't technically proper grammar, but I want it to punctuate or make the reader pause because that's why you use a comma, for example. And I have an English degree, so I know sometimes I use commas way too much, but I really like to take moments where I punctuate, where I would indent to a new paragraph to highlight like a key, like I want you to read it one word at a time because it stylistically I think has a better punch than it to, I can't think of an example, but
well, I kind of can because I just read Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab, my favorite author, obsessed. Not gonna go down that wormhole, but I was reading like the first chapter, and I like she's the type of writer where I will pause and like just appreciate lines because I love her writing style and her voice. But then I found at the beginning of the book like a lot of the sentences were like really short sentences, and then at the end of the book, the whole theme of that book is like vampires and hunger and feeling endless hunger and yearning and stuff like that. And there's one section where the one character is insanely hungry and like trying not to kill somebody who she's like feeding from. And there's a full paragraph that could probably be 6 or 7 sentences. That's one continuous sentence with commas. And like that's a stylistic choice that
I do that too.
Grammar teacher would hate. But
oh yeah, if you ever did that in an essay, they would get crossed out and they would throw it out. And even in studying English, right? Like they would say this is not at like what is the word I'm looking for? Mm-hmm. This is not professional, but I think that proper. Thank you. But I do think that there's something to be said about how you go about writing and ignoring that. So having a run-on sentence, because that's what it is. It's a run-on sentence.
And in that situation, if I remember correctly, it was supposed to symbolize like the rambling thoughts.
The rambling thoughts, which I agree with because it's continuous. Another thing too, like I am writing in third person, but I swap to first person and personal pronouns when they have a thought, but I italicize it. Which is also technically would be flagged sometimes.
That's a really common practice, so I do the same thing.
Because I don't like writing first person. I don't enjoy reading first person either. That's a personal preference. Because I like to know more about what's going on in the scene rather than just the first person. Because then you have a biased POV.
That's what I love.
But I mean, I love that to an extent. But I don't know. I just like it.
Yeah, that could be a whole video, me talking about how much I love unreliable narrators.
I mean, I love
It's my
unreliable narrators.
favorite books,
Um,
most of them.
but tense is another thing for self editing. Like you need to
Hmm.
pick if you are in present tense, past tense, and stick with it
I used to
because
be really bad for that.
like I'm writing in past tense and I have had moments where then I'll switch to present tense and like so changing the word feeling to felt. But that's with line editing, I would say.
Yeah.
So I just highlight them right now and I will change them if I catch them.
Can you
Ginkgo.
hear the cat right now?
Ginkgo.
She's always by the front door when she does this. She holds a toy in her mouth and just screams.
She knows Peter's gone.
Yeah, she was doing it last night after you went to bed. My next step is, well, I have a question for you. Do you have like a world or character Bible? Do you know what I mean by that?
No.
Okay, so a world Bible or a character Bible is basically just like a Google document where you put in all of the like logistical information about
yes.
your magic systems, your characters, whatever. I'm sure there's tons of other names for them.
Yeah,
but
I've never heard that. But I have like a notebook.
Yeah, so if you don't already have like a character or world Bible where you have all of your information, like the logistical stuff written down, make one while you're editing. I'm really bad. I was really bad for Tidebound. Is I figured out the characters as I wrote, so I knew their personality. Or sorry, I knew their appearances more, but I didn't really know their personalities yet. So there was a lot of like shifting character personalities because I didn't write stuff down. There was so much like double checking eye color, things like that, because I just didn't keep track of it. So side characters' eye colors changed on my whim. So if you make your little world Bible, if you have one already, then you can cross reference it to make sure everything's accurate. If you don't have one while you're writing, I wrote down every single fact about a character, like whether it was backstory, appearance, whatever, and then made sure that they were not contradicting later in the novel, or like Heston, for example, his eyes are a brownish green. At one point, they were blue, and I flagged that, and then could go back instead of going back through my book and reading my book and being like, "Where do I mention Heston's eyes?" I just look at my character Bible, so it's a lot faster for contradictions.
Yes. So I've never heard of that, but there's also World Anvil, I believe is what it's called, that you can basically build a wiki for your entire world.
Mm-hmm.
My friend and I are co-writing a witchy book together, and she's doing a lot of the backstory because I'm just going to help her with the creativity part. And like she's literally like you can structure all your characters, your entire history from like beginning to end, from like the establishment of your society. So if you're that insane, highly recommend. Um, I have a notebook, a physical one, because I tend to carry it with me everywhere I go because like I'll be sitting in the car and just have a thought. But I am doing what you suggested right now, where I am every time a character comes up, I know their physical appearance, what house they are, what their proper title is, etc. Because like I even had a mistake myself recently in like the page 35, where my one main character's house was actually the wrong one.
Mm.
So I had to change that. But it's good that I caught it and I had my word Bible, my world Bible.
Especially last names too. I'm terrible at remembering my characters' last names.
Yep, same.
It's just
some didn't even have last names.
Yeah, the whole point is just to save you time.
Yeah,
Instead
save
of
you time.
You're gonna have to go through your book and find things. Which right now, okay, when I was writing Tidekeeper, the amount of times I pulled. Do you want to see my list? You're looking at my list. The amount of times I pulled up Tidebound on Kindle Unlimited to double check things. So fast and efficient. But if you don't have a book up in Kindle Unlimited already, then you can't just pop on and do that. My next one is while you're reading as well, is trying to notice and find your bad habits. I have a lot of bad habits. I have a document now that I can honestly pull it up and find all of my bad habits, and I cross reference it for every single project that I write now because my habits follow me through every single book.
Everyone has their things.
I'm actually going to see if I can find it while you're talking here because it would be really interesting.
Common phrases. Like I am guilty for using my character's eyes a lot because I think
Mm-hmm.
that eyes are very expressive and like obviously it's a really easy way to like make characters distinguishable. But the amount of times I say eyes, like they have other
Yeah,
things on their face that I
that's
can
very
mention.
common. I do eyebrows a lot too. I have the list. It's called, my editor's name Shannon, so it's Shannon's Royal Editing Decrees. And some of them are hers, like rules. Again, that's going back to style, but we decided on rules with like when to capitalize the word queen, the different names,
true.
when to
I remember
capitalize. Like I have the Shattered Islands. Do we capitalize the word the? We decided not to. Making sure that's consistent. Like that's more of like a line editing thing. Um, yeah, on it says you can take the Oxford comma out of my cold dead hands. We use the Oxford comma in this household. Um, um, okay, so there's the spelling stuff, and then here is my. There's more. Okay, these are mostly rules, like always italicized ship names. I'm using imperial measurements, past tense guide. We decided, like, I have country never on in Satoni, figuring out how to, like, how do they refer to each country? Like, Sintonian and the Neveranese is what we decided, stuff like that. Okay, frequently used words. I, yank, soft, arc, body. The amount of time I use the word body?
Yeah.
It's horrible.
I use chest a lot and heart. Like their
okay,
ribs.
I was gonna say, I was like chest. I was like, you boob
no,
girl.
No, like oh, I just hit the mic. Sorry. Like chest, like when I'm like their chest constricts or they have trouble breathing. Like
got you.
Yeah, very centered.
Other words are stare, hiss, united force, and rising indignation are two things I use multiple times. Apparently, I just like the sound of them. Stroll, lifting corners of mouth, shock. My characters are shocked every 5 seconds. Linking arms, grinding teeth, and slinking.
I use the word adorned.
Okay.
It's adorned with whatever. Yeah.
You'll notice things. It's yeah, you'll pick up on things. So like make a list of this stuff. It's really helpful. I also have a really bad problem of describing things as if. So like I would say like well I write first person, so it's all from the first two books were all from Kyoja's point of view. So Kyoja would be like, he furrowed his brow as if he's upset.
As if and I did that too.
Yeah, and my editor's like, you don't have to say that. Just say he's upset. She can make decisions. And I'm like, well, my character doesn't want to make assumptions about people. And she's like, no, your character has a bias. Like,
make her going to have a bias.
Make her make assumptions about people. So yeah, I had to cut out the word as if probably multiple, like a couple times a chapter. Like I used it a lot.
I'm terrible at doing that too, and like using metaphors to express how people, because I love metaphors, but I don't want it to be at the point where you're like.
I threw away a moth, and what's the heck's that book called? The Night and the Moth. I enjoyed that book, and it's so popular, but I DNF'd it because there's too much purple prose, and there's a metaphor every 5 seconds, and there's a sex scene where they use metaphors to describe like how much they love each other, and like, oh my god, there was. If you've read this book, you know what I'm talking about. No one else seems to be pissed off about this, except for me. But it literally, she was like coming, and it's like, he rung me like a bell, ring, 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 or something like that. Anyways, I hated it so much. I did actually go back and reread it. It's not as bad as I made it out to be in my head.
Okay.
But it was enough for me to DNF the book in the middle of a sex scene.
Yeah, which is unfortunate because normally the sex scenes are some of the best parts.
That's actually like the last of my tips. On the topic of like overusing words. Also, like you can Google lists. If you don't know what your bad habits are, you can Google lists of common bad habits, adverbs, cliche phrases, stuff like that. You will use them, even if you think you're better than them.
Well, do you have any books? Because like you read a lot of books too that help you. Like yes. I just go off. I can
go grab my books. I have a stack downstairs.
Okay, go grab.
I keep them together.
Here, I'll go grab mine.
I love books. Like these help a lot. I have a book upstairs that I probably use the most, but it's not editing, so I didn't grab it. But I really, really love the How to Save a Cat outlining novels. Perfect. That changed the way that I write. on the same, I also didn't grab it, but I also have Romancing the Beat, which is also an outlining book, but for romances. So I use Save the Cat, make my outline, and then Romance the Beat to add in the subplots for the romance. When it comes to actual editing, the one I use, my foot is falling asleep from the way that I'm sitting. Okay.
I my toes because it's cold in here. So.
Do you want my slippers? They're sweaty.
No, it's fine.
Okay. The book that I use the most when editing is The Emotion Thesaurus, because like you said, like we overuse the word eyes and stuff like that for describing emotion. So if I'm reading and like I said, I use the word shocked all the time, I will try to describe the emotions instead. So this book is basically just highlighted it a lot. It's just different emotions, gives you physical signs, mental responses, what that may escalate or de-escalate to, stuff like that. This will help you with rewriting a lot and figuring out how to describe a character's emotions. I honestly assigned certain reactions to different characters.
I think going off of that too, like you can use a lot of because I studied film, so I watch a lot of TV, and I find that does help me with expressions as well because you watch other humans like convey specific emotions, and you can use that for your writing, like I do. Mm-hmm. So like. You know when you're watching a TV show and the guy's mad and you know he tends to like look off to the side and he clenches his jaw or he's flexing his hands, like you don't necessarily have to be focused on their face always or like in the rigidity of their body. There's also lots of YouTube videos and stuff. People do talk about these kinds of things, and I like if I'm not even sure. I also during my editing stage too is I read the dialogue as my character as much as I try to also help with describing like or the adjective beside like if he said or saying like he said blank blank like as I find when reading that out loud and highlighting that can really help with the tone of your wording as well, if that made sense.
That kind of made sense.
It kind of made sense.
I think what you're trying to say is like, or do you mean like assigning different like
all dead ass
adjectives? Okay.
And like try to, for example, if I have a demon character who has a lisp, like I try to say it like this.
Gotcha.
And
I see what you mean.
emphasize
You
it.
method
So that,
act.
yeah, I guess to tie in how they say it in words though, so that I can get the reader to do that work for me and start giving them voices. So I do that a lot while editing.
That makes sense.
An insane person. I talk to myself.
No, it's not insane. The reason I grabbed this book again is because I did realize they have a lot of other books. This is the only one I own, and they have a website. It's called One Stop for Writers, and they have some of their emotions listed on there, so you can use it to see before you want to buy the book. But they also have other books here: the Positive and Negative Trait Thesaurus, the Urban and Rural Setting Thesaurus, the Occupation Thesaurus, the Emotional Wound Thesaurus, like a whole bunch of different stuff. So you can kind of, once you pinpoint what your problem is, my problem's emotions, you can buy a book for it. My next book that I use a lot is the Romance Writer's Phrase Book. If you write smutty scenes or romance at all, get this. It's really short, but it's insanely helpful. And what it does is, let me find a page that I've highlighted a lot again because it makes it easier to see.
Does this like help you build tension though?
Yes.
Okay.
It definitely does. So
we want your lady parts to be throbbing.
So it divides it between, it helps you develop intimacy and attraction between your characters without using the same like, ooh, I think she's hot shit that you find on Kindle Unlimited everywhere. So it starts with like physical characteristics that you can use to describe female versus male, different ways to describe body movements, facial expressions, humor, eyes, emotions. And at the bottom, there is sex and miscellaneous, and then how to describe colors. And it's all about building that yearning and that attraction. So I'm trying to see if I can find a really good example. His presence was compelling. The pain was carved in merciless lines on his face. Like it's just different ways to describe things. And obviously, you don't want to read this and like copy and paste these into your book, but you can use them as a guideline. Like I would go through and be like, ooh, he I almost said demure. That's not the word. Instead of darkening eyes, it was like, yeah, I don't know. I don't remember. So that one's
You
great.
don't always have to describe, F me eyes
Yeah.
every time a guy is horny.
This book is The Anatomy of a Story by John Truby. It's Truby, probably not Truby. It's actually like a pretty thicker book. But this is actually written for screenwriters. I'm just realizing, but it still works really, really well for books. But this is more a developmental editing. I would read this before writing, or like you could take the facts in this and kind of apply them to your book. But this is more of a big picture thing. So I would recommend that one as well. Those are my main books.
I, as an example, grabbed one of my world Bibles. I have two different ones. This one, big one. I find I write better by hand. I've always just been that way. If writing a book by hand didn't take so much effort, I would do it. But like for example, I'll plan out like the trials. Um, but this is more plot stuff, and this is more like world building. So like I have specific characters that I've been like, they're part of this house and they have this power. Mm-hmm. Because some characters I don't introduce their magic at all, but I still need to know like what they are.
That's all I've got for tips. I feel like that was a lot.
That was a lot. And we rambled a lot.
I enjoy editing.
I am in the I hate editing stage. Like I'm enjoying going back to my first book because I can do some of the work that I've been putting off. Like because I am writing book 4 right now. Like I can now go back to book 1 and sprinkle in some more stuff. Mm-hmm. So
I think the only reason I like editing right now is because I'm not doing it. In the summer, I hated editing because
she was so stressed.
It's a lot.
It is a lot.
But you'll survive.
Yeah, I guess editing tip: just push through it. Make yourself a list. Don't overwhelm yourself. Like break it into little parts.
And if you're publishing, it will never be perfect. There will be a point where you just have to say enough is enough.
Enough is enough, and remember that you're doing this for your story and your characters, not necessarily for you.
Have fun. Bye. Like